What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And I have to say, the number one question that I get more often than anything right now is, should I get gastric bypass surgery? And, I've talked to a lot of other YouTubers. I've talked to a lot of other people in my local area, and I've talked to a lot of fans about it. And today, rather than just keep answering that question over and over again on the phone and via email, I just want to talk about it here. The first thing I want to say is that I can't answer that question for you because it is a very personal choice, and it is a very difficult choice to make. I'm not a medical professional. I am someone who's gone through it, and in my particular case, I think it was absolutely worth it because I was literally dying. I was on death's door. My blood pressure was 210 over 120 all of the time, even when I was laying down trying to get some sleep. I really didn't have much of a choice. A gastric bypass was kind of a last-ditch effort, Hail Mary throw to try to keep me alive, and I was successful. And I guess if you were in that situation, it might be the right choice for you. So if you're in that situation, definitely consult with a doctor. Not only that, but my morbid obesity was ruining the quality of my life. It was ruining the quality of my relationship with my wife, the relationships with my friends. It was making it difficult for me to work. It was making it difficult for me to be out of pain, difficult to go out into the world, to spend the money that I was making, to enjoy the things I was doing in life. I was barely able to walk from one end of my house to the other. So the quality of my life was very, very poor. And if you're in that kind of situation, again, I would probably recommend that you consult with a doctor about the surgery as well. The other thing that made me a good candidate for surgery is that I had continued to lose and gain the same amount of weight over and over again. And we're talking a large amount of weight. I would go from 600 pounds back down to 500, 600 to 500, 580 to 500, 570 to 500. I could never seem to break that 500-pound mark, and a lot of it did have to do with my hormonal issues, my genetic issues, but it mostly had to do with the fact that I just did not have the discipline necessary to really nail that home. So surgery for me, it was kind of like a rehab situation where I'm forced to relearn how to eat, I'm forced to redo everything, I'm forced to get it right this time, or at least have another chance of getting it right during this 6 month to the first year of rehab after the surgery. So I was a good candidate there. And if you're someone who's struggling with all of that stuff, then you might be a good candidate as well. But the answer to this question is never you should just rush and get surgery. The answer to the question is you should consult with a surgeon and consult with a doctor specifically that has a robust weight loss program, because I was in a weight loss program trying to figure everything out for a while. I saw an endocrinologist to figure out what was wrong hormonally. We tried different medications that might push me in the right direction. We eliminated medications that made it more difficult for me to lose weight. We tried to figure out what genetical issues and hormonal issues I was facing that made it more difficult for me. And we, of course, we was in therapy as well to try to figure out why I continued to eat myself to death. And I think it's very important to tackle as many of those roadblocks as humanly possible before you really consider surgery. You can tackle those afterwards, but it reduces the chances of you being successful. And when you consult with a surgeon and you consult with a doctor, most of them are going to have some very robust classes that are going to teach you everything that you've been doing wrong and everything that you need to do right post-surgery. And they're going to look at your health history, and if there's not much of a health history there, they're going to make you build a health history by getting a bunch of tests done to check out your heart, to check out your metabolism, to check out everything that's going on with your body to determine whether or not you're a good candidate for the surgery. So going to a surgeon and consulting with them is very different from actually getting the surgery. The surgery probably won't happen after the first consultation for at least 4 or 5 months. It could be 6 months or a year, or for some people I've talked to, it was even 2 years before the surgery ever got scheduled. They worked on as much as they could to try to get things going. So again, consulting with a doctor as soon as you can and consulting with a surgeon as soon as you can is probably the best advice I can give. And people have asked me, my doctor does recommend surgery for me. Should I go through it? What are the experiences like? And I have to tell you that for the experiences for me were relatively better than normal, but I talked to a lot of different people who've had the surgery. A friend of mine who just got the surgery very recently is experiencing a ton of complications, and death is a very strong possibility. Now, it's a very small possibility because this is a relatively safe surgery. It's safer than getting your gallbladder taken out, but depending on your health issues, it could be very complicated. And since you're morbidly obese, you're definitely going to have health issues. It's difficult to operate on you. It's difficult to survive the surgery. You might have underlying heart issues you don't even know about. And all of that could result in complications or even death. There's this misconception that until you get the surgery, I don't think you can fully understand. But a lot of people think that surgery is the easy way out. And I guess for some people, it is definitely a last resort. And maybe it is perceived as easy because you don't have to put as much discipline into your brain. But instead, you are recovering from an invasive surgery that is very physically painful and physically demanding. You're dealing with all kinds of eating issues. You're dealing with vomiting issues. You're dealing with diarrhea and constipation and all kinds of miserable issues. So honestly, I think in retrospect, had I been able to lose the weight the natural way, that would have been a lot easier. And I would recommend that you do your absolute best, but your doctor is also going to require it. But you absolutely should do your absolute best to lose it the natural way. And only if you are unable to do that and have proven that to yourself and proven that to your medical team, should you ever consider the surgery, because not only is it a risk for your life, but it is grueling and painful and disgusting and awful and just it's awful. It is definitely the harder choice by a lot. And I think the most important thing to realize is that it's not a guarantee. You know, some people lose every single pound of their excess weight from this surgery. Some people only lose half. Some people only lose a quarter of it. Some people end up gaining it all back a few years later because they never really learned the discipline and they never handled the mental issues or the genetic issues or the medical issues that are leading to it. And it is a huge hit to your metabolism. A lot of surgeons will tell you when you calculate your BMR after the surgery, you want to subtract a good 500-600 calories from that number to get an idea of where your BMR actually lies, because you're going to spend the rest of your life fighting your metabolism because it's going to take a hit from the starvation portion of the recovery. And then finally, and they will stress this quite a bit in your surgeon's classes, support structure. It is very important that you have somebody that can help you recover. And we are talking about therapy. We are talking about medical doctors. We are talking about having the money to take time off of work if there's complications, or even if there's not complications, to work on your body and work on your mind, and the access to a gym and the access to the things that you'll need to lose the weight, and make sure that you can afford all of the supplements and all of the foods that come with it, and have a job that will support you through this. And have people that can help you during that recovery as well. If you don't have all of those things, you might not be a good candidate for surgery. And that sucks, but you need to build that support structure, and as well as the support structure in your brain and the physical support structure to really be able to recover from that surgery. Have people in your life that can help. It's really important, and that includes a therapist. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you are a morbidly obese person who spent the majority of your life morbidly obese, and it's either completely destroying your physical quality of life or the quantity of your life because it's actually killing you, and you are fully aware of the risks, it's time to consult with a surgeon to see whether or not he thinks you're a good candidate. And if you are, and you're fully aware of the risks, and you have the support structure, both financially and mentally and physically, to help you through the surgery, and you're willing to go through 6 months of miserable, grueling nausea and diarrhea, and you've done everything you can to lose the weight otherwise, then yes, I think I could recommend gastric bypass surgery. But I think that's going to be just a very narrow few of you. But for everyone else that asks that question, I think the answer is fairly simple. You should continue to double down on the effort to try to lose the weight the natural, normal way. And you should try to tackle the issues that made you morbidly obese to begin with, whether it be a genetic issue or a hormonal issue, or it has to do with your eating habits, or it's a mental issue, or whatever it is, you need to work on that. And while you're doing that, you're building that medical history that's going to be so important to doctors and surgeons to help you get to the point where you qualify for that surgery. Because if you find yourself in a position like I was, where you're literally dying, it could be 2 years after you consult with that doctor if you don't have a medical history before they will ever put you through that surgery. And so you've got to do everything you can now. And not only that, but maybe you can prevent ever needing the surgery. Maybe you can fix the quality and quantity of your life right now the natural, normal way. And you need to spend 110% of your efforts to do that. But I think consulting with a surgeon to help you do that, consulting with a doctor to help you do that, is always the right choice. If nothing else, I think it's important that you learn from my mistakes here, because I definitely did not take my health very seriously. As I've said in the past, I wasn't eating to live, I was eating to die. I was suicidal, I was mentally unhappy, I didn't care if I lived or died, and I liked food, and I knew food was killing me, and that's why I continue to eat it. I'm definitely very far from that mental space these days. Probably not far enough to be as successful as I want to be, but I'm getting there, and I'm still doing the work, and I'm looking forward to maybe loving myself one day. And I think that's the key to all of that. I think you need to learn to love yourself, whether you're big or small, but always work towards getting healthier and having a better, higher quality of life. Work towards it every single day. The more work you put in today, the better you'll get to enjoy it tomorrow. And I hope that you guys do that. And I think that's a good concept for surgery as well. You put in that 6 months of misery, that first year of misery, so that the rest of your life is longer and better And that's why I did it. And that might be why you do it too. Until then, guys, take your health seriously. Take good care of yourself. Thanks for watching. I love you very much. And I'll speak with you again.